This is Gigi Sabat, and you're listening to the Walk With Me podcast. My guest today is Dr. Aaron. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me, Gigi. It's a pleasure to be here.
Such an honor to have you back on the show today. Can you start off by telling us a little bit more about you and where are you from?
Yeah, so to start off simply, my name is Dr. Aaron Ozee. I am originally from Chicago, Illinois, here in the northwest suburbs. For those of you listening right now, if you're familiar with Chicago, right around the Schaumburg area. So very still close to my local roots, but I travel different parts of the country, different parts of the world. Being the famed creator of the international children's phenomenon Regulus, which encompasses a variety of different aspects that we'll obviously dive into during the show today.
I love it. Dr. Aaron, tell us a little bit more about your book, your children's book.
Sure. So my children's book, Regulus, which is what I am most known for, but really it has evolved into more than just a children's book. It's turned into a movie and really a merchandise line and all these great and exciting and in many ways possible and historical things. And it's developed into this Regulus verse, as my fans now put it. And really the baseline story of the story of Regulus is there's this titular infamous Rat King character named Regulus living inside a wall somewhere, someplace, in this kingdom of cheese filled with other mice, and he's their ruler. And there's three mice in particular who service him, and these three mice, are constantly pushed around by Regulus. He's their king, yes, but he treats them with such disrespect. Always considers them and among all the other mice in his kingdom to be beneath him. Doesn't share with them, is very cocky. Just everything that you could see about being a negative human being, is embodied in this character named Regulus. And one day these three mice under the cover of night really decide that, it's time for them to get even. It's time for them to settle this ongoing fight with him and, make him actually, suffer a bit. I hate to put it that way, but that's really their intent. And so they steal all of his cheese and they force him on this path of self-discovery where, he has to realize that, people who are so close to him that he mistreated were the ones who betrayed him. But why did they betray him? And, it forces Regulus to understand the true meaning of, being humble, how to forgive, the importance of family, the significance of love, so many valuable lessons for children and families alike all around the world, for everyone, just every type of reader to connect with and apply into very facets of their lives. So
I love it. Very powerful. Now, what was the aha moment where you realized that Regulus was going to be a mice?
Well, so really when I had wanted to come up with a new story idea, I was already 10 books in. So Regulus is my 11th published title. So I had written 9 collections of poetry, 9 anthologies, and then I decided to shift into children's books with my first one being My Darling Child Shiloh. And then one day, I really knew that it was succeeding in many ways. It was getting a lot of media attention. I was doing book signings. I was doing things with my first children's book that I hadn't done with the previous 9. And, I knew it was a big shift in my career. And so I knew at that point, with all the attention it was getting, that I had to follow it up with something, that much better, something that was really going to take all that creativity, all that momentum, and just blast it right into the universe, in the best possible way. And so I was on my way into a meeting one morning, and for some reason, whenever I have like a genuinely great idea, it hits me like a bolt of lightning. I always explain this to people, and you don't really see it coming; it just happens, and it's very rare that it happens, like at least of that magnitude. And all of a sudden I was driving, probably not the best place to be doing this. I mean, I have very specific places where I have great ideas. Driving is one of them for some reason. I'm not really sure why. It really always has been that way. But I was driving to this meeting, and I started saying to myself, rats, mice, cheese, and a kingdom. And then all of a sudden it came out. It was like, and so it was almost called, the character was almost called Reginald, but I thought Reginald was too aggressive, for the age group that I was trying to hit, which is primarily between 4 and 8, but is really appealed to younger and older, readers of all ages, really. But, I thought, after really kind of sitting on that for just basically a few minutes, I was like, well, what about Regulus? That falls off the tongue a lot better. It sounds a little bit more playful, more open, more welcoming. And I always tell people, whenever they're writing a story, writing a children's book, writing a book, sometimes what you need is to come up with the name, and everything else, all the other details, just start to populate from there. And I couldn't get it out of my head after I initially came up with the idea, on my way to that meeting. And I just tried to actually ignore it. I was spending days trying to forget about it, and I just couldn't. And that's how I knew that it was a very powerful idea. So at the time, I was working on my associates at the College of DuPage in Glen Ellen, Illinois. And I one day went into the library, spent 6 hours. I went ahead and, typed everything down, and, spent about, 6-7 hours doing so. And right as I, hit that last key, typed that last word, I had not changed a single thing. And, 5-6 years later, it's turned into this, this culture, this phenomenon that has connected readers, creators, publishers, celebrities alike all around the world, around one central theme. And it's just truly incredible to see how powerful, a children's story, a children's book of this magnitude, what kind of impact that's had on people. So.
Very powerful. Now, Aaron, there are several folks who are looking to write a children's book, but many times they become stuck. What would you tell those folks who feel stuck as they're beginning to write their children's book?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Gigi, because, and this is something that I talk about quite frequently, is that, no one really has the, a secret key to, overcoming writer's block or getting started. Everyone's going to have their own version, because that's why, it's such a beautiful thing to have a perspective, right? We see the world, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, as they say, and so we're able to, follow our own path, as I did, with everything that I've done up until this point. I followed my own path, a very unique, experimental, and in certain ways an unorthodox path. But, many people will say, well, in order to overcome writer's block, or, really to get started on a new project, you just need to write and tire yourself out and try to, just jot down as many ideas as you can. Or, sometimes it's exercising, or, reading other books of other writers you aspire to be, and, none of them are right. None of them are wrong. But what I can say, at least from my experience, is that one of the best ways that I can go about starting a new idea or overcoming, certain mental or emotional challenges and continuing something that I'm writing, is actually to step away from what you're doing, step away from the work, and expose yourself to creative things, more natural things that are in your life that would inspire you or spark certain thoughts and ideas that you can then pull back together and string along into a story, or at least find a way, hey, this is a way that I can overcome these present challenges that I'm facing. For example, for me, it's me stepping away and, sitting in front of the fireplace and watching, the wood burn and, hearing the crackle, or, going into this room that I have that has all these paintings and, different sculptures and forms of artwork, where I kind of just sit there and look at everything and reflect. And, I don't really follow the traditional methods that authors, that creators have to come up with these new ideas, or to really, overcome these different creative challenges. I just kind of do what feels right to me. And I feel like, that's really where the key point is, Gigi, is that, people when they creators when they're entering into this phase of trying to create a new piece of work or overcome these creative challenges, they always feel like they need to follow a certain process or they need to follow the advice of other creators, when actually they're not following other creators' advice. They're the ones who are just looking within themselves to develop that path for themselves. I think that really develops many layers of creative dependency, and makes you stronger and allows you to take on more projects and create, things in a much better light than you would previously before. So
I love it. Follow your own unique path. Write that down, ladies and gentlemen. Follow your own unique path. Such a powerful statement. Now, Dr. Aaron, I love what you said there in regards to creativity, because there are oftentimes folks who are writing a children's book, and what happens is they come up with a character. They have a character in mind and they want to proceed with their book, but then they become embarrassed because they think about what others may say. What do you tell those folks, Dr. Aaron?
Oh, wow. Well, that's a really good point, Gigi, because I'll give you a really good example. So many speaking engagements that I do are, held in classrooms, of different age groups, middle school, junior high, high school, college, private seminars or, events that are staged. And, it's me talking about my rise to success, my, attraction to fame, is much more than an author, but more as this public figure, this creator, this literary star, and I, really kind of see it from a very specific light that, when you're getting to a point when, you're trying to release something that you've created and you're feeling this, huge, overpowering, emotion of, well, I don't think that my work is deserving of other people, or, I don't think other people really need to see it yet, or I feel like there's still more tinkering that needs to be done, or, whatever. Those are all just excuses, and it's not excuses that we're making, in a malicious way. We're making those excuses because, in a way, at heart, we're all perfectionists and we're trying to, put ourselves out there in the best way possible. And especially with a writer, someone who is, not even a published author yet and really is working on their first book or their first story that they want to release on a mass scale, it's very intimidating. And I can't tell you enough how many classrooms, how many seminars, how many speaking engagements that I've been in where I've had a lot of people come up to me afterwards or even ask, publicly, and I give them, a lot of props for having that courage to ask publicly and say, I just wrote this novel, but, I don't really know where to begin. But yet again, I don't think that my work is, really, worth being sold, or I don't think that there's any monetary value to it, or I feel like my ideas aren't formulated and they're just holding themselves back. And sometimes you just need to quickly leap over that wall and get it out there, and whatever happens, and you learn from that experience. And then if things don't go entirely according to plan, which, most of the time it never does, that's the fun part, right? Just kind of have to go with that flow. You're able to take that strategy, look at the pressure points, look at the negatives, look at the positives, and try to develop what that next plan is going to be for the next book or the next story that you're creating, and it doesn't have to just be with books. It can be for music, for art, anything creative that you're trying to put out there into the world. But sometimes, there really is never a good time to do it. You just kind of have to do it, and sometimes, yes, you have to force yourself into that position, but you're forcing yourself into that position for the better, because as I talked about before, it's making you stronger as a creator, making you stronger as, a writer, to say, yes, I know that my work is deserving of other people to read it, and regardless of what they say, at the end of the day, I know that me as the creator, it should be the only one that's happy with what I'm putting out there. I'm not writing for other people. I'm writing for myself.
Excellent advice. Now, Dr. Aaron, what do you tell the folks who have written their best-selling book? They've already launched their children's book. Now they're looking to create a series out of the book, but they feel stuck.
Yeah. So I've actually encountered that myself, and it's taken me, a number of years to really find the best, workaround for dealing with emotions, involving that. Because, when I had created Regulus, I still don't have a sequel or a prequel to Regulus. I'm happy to say that I'm writing the prequel to Regulus right now, and also a third book as part of this whole Regulus verse that are all on track for release in the next year or two here. But, I, for a while thought, well, I kind of almost in a way referenced, television, cinema, the making of movies, film projects. And sometimes it's best to just stick with, one singular idea. You put that out there, it succeeds, and, you need to come up with a completely new and original idea. But other times, as you allow that original idea, that first stab at that, new concept that you've put out into the world, sometimes you see, well, there's a way to twist this original story, this original concept, and make it into a series, a franchise, and as I say quite often, build it into this culture, this fandom, that people of all ages, can really get behind, and just when, you have all these authors, these children's authors say, well, I'm writing for children. Yeah, but it's not really just for children now, is it? It's for families. There's a lot of adults who connect with that and reference back to their childhoods. And, you're really writing for everybody. But I'll go back to what I said before. You're not supposed to write for other people. You're supposed to write for yourself, write from the heart, write honestly, truthful, and it has to match, what values you have for yourself. But, sometimes, you have to kind of judge in a way the market and the way that it's responding to the work that you've put out there. And if honestly, you can't see a way to expand that original concept, that original storyline, into another book and into a movie or a TV show or, a play, or how many variations you want to create of that original, that core concept, that's okay. It doesn't mean that that's not really going to happen at some point. It may, but that's your mind, that's your subconscious, that's your creativity telling you, hey, this is not where your energy should be spent right now. It needs to be, divided, and needs to, really take its time to actually bring it to that point, where you can say, yes, I am confident now that there is another way to segue from this original story, and build onto that, but, and other times, sometimes it just feels natural. Sometimes after you write the first, or even as you go into writing the first story, or the first book, you have the intention of making it into a series, and I think it's really up to the interpretation of, the creator to make that decision for themselves. But that kind of goes back to another point that I brought up before, which is developing that creative dependency, trying to, do what's best for you. If it fits, it fits. If it doesn't, it doesn't, but you as a creator need to determine that yourself, for one. But two, it all comes with time, and if you pressure that process and you try to rush it, you're not going to have the best outcome. It needs to naturally feel great, and that it's going to lead in that direction and produce the results that not other people want or expecting of you, but the results that you want and expect for yourself.
Very powerful. Do you have any last few words for the audience, Dr. Aaron?
I will say this. So I know that, when I was first writing, first getting started, I faced a number of different challenges. There were so many challenges that, I encountered from, a writing standpoint, to editing, to publishing, to distributing, to marketing my work, really in all ways that I possibly could to build this brand, not around just my work, my creative works, but also myself as a creator. And I know what it's like looking back on the 14, 15-year-old version of myself, and saying, wow, like if I had someone like me, guiding them or guiding myself back then, up to this point, it would have saved so much time. And there's a lot of authors, a lot of creators who consult with me on an ongoing basis as well. So I encourage everyone, hearing me right now, to reach out, because it's better to ask for help than to not, because as I've really incorporated this into my many philosophies that I stand behind, you're never going to know unless you ask, and I'm someone who is going to hear you. And if you ask, I will help you. And because I want to see everyone succeed, I want everyone to build their own path as creators. But sometimes, in various ways, you don't know how to get started. But if you have someone who's willing to do that for you and is willing to connect with you on that level and see where the current struggles are and see how to overcome that and see how to make you creatively independent, then that is a golden match. So like I said, I really encourage everyone hearing me to reach out, and I will do everything in my power with the resources that I have and the knowledge that I've obtained over the past decade being in this career of mine, and see how it can best fit into what you're trying to accomplish. So
I love it. Ask for help. Write that down, ladies and gentlemen. Ask for help. And I'll say it again, ask for help. Such a powerful statement. Now, make sure to check out Dr. Aaron on all of his social media platforms and also his website. That's AaronOzee.com. And Dr. Aaron, thank you for being a guest on Walk With Me podcast. You have a blessed day.
Thank you. You too, Gigi. Thank you for having me on. Bye-bye now.